Um, Imagine mounting a brilliant 4K display in this sprawling commercial space, or maybe a high-end home theater, and you realize the data pipeline feeding it just, gives up and dies after like 15 feet. Standard HDMI is just a massive bottleneck. So, okay, let's unpack this because today our mission for this deep dive is to decode exactly how you eliminate that bottleneck. We are looking at a really specific piece of pro-level AV tech, which is the Kramer EXT3-H-T transmitter. And we're using specs from an HDTV Supply product page.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the most common architectural frustrations. You have this incredible display, but you are physically anchored to the source device because, well, native HDMI signaling just wasn't built for long hauls.
Right. I actually like to think of native HDMI like a really wide, heavily choreographed parade. Up close, it looks spectacular, but try marching that same delicate parade across a massive campus and it just completely loses formation.
That is a great way to put it. The distance problem is real, and the Kramer transmitter solves this by acting more like a high-speed train system.
Okay, so packing it into train cars.
Exactly. It takes that wide parade and packs it into heavily shielded cars, which in this case are standard twisted pair copper CCAT cables. It maintains perfect order over huge distances, and the engine driving that train is HDBaseT 3.0 technology.
Wow, HDBaseT 3.0.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is the sheer scale of the technical leap. It alters the data packaging entirely, moving away from that fragile HDMI signaling into a really robust packet-based digital transmission.
Which makes sense for twisted pair copper.
Right, and because it's optimized for that, this device pushes uncompressed 4K resolution at 60 Hz, complete with HDR10, and maintains near zero latency up to 40 meters.
Wait, 40 meters? That is like 130 feet away.
It is. And if you don't actually need 4K, dropping to high compression at 1080p pushes that signal to an incredible 70 meters, so about 230 feet.
That is a huge pipeline.
Yeah.
But sending a perfect picture that far introduces a totally new problem. Like, if your media server is 130 feet away in some secure closet, how do you actually control it? I mean, the specs show it handles up to 32 channels of uncompressed audio, which is great.
Oh, definitely.
But it also highlights bidirectional RS-232 and IR. I have to admit, that initially felt like total overkill to me. Most modern gear is IP controlled now, right? So why route serial data in infrared alongside a movie?
Well, it does seem redundant at first glance. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, commercial and pro-level environments are just a completely different beast.
Oh, because of legacy hardware.
Yeah, it is about total environmental control. You still have these massive legacy projector arrays or highly specific commercial displays, and they rely entirely on hardwired serial commands to just turn on, switch inputs, or adjust parameters.
So the real engineering feat here isn't just sending the video, it's routing those legacy IR and serial protocols cleanly alongside high bandwidth 4K video.
Right, and doing it without introducing any jitter or latency to the picture. You are sending the entire control system through that single copper wire. You can literally stand in a viewing room, point an IR remote at a display, and control the source hardware multiple rooms away.
That is wild. And the RS-232 allows for complex system data to flow back and forth at over 115,000 bits per second, with no pre-configuration needed, right?
Exactly. But taking this from theory to actual deployment, the physical reality of the hardware matters just as much. Kramer houses this in what they call a digit tools enclosure.
Right. It's built from aluminum and is completely fanless, which I noticed in the specs. Also, looking at the cost on the HDTV Supply page, it's currently discounted from $470 down to $376.
That is a pretty solid drop. And the fanless design is absolutely critical for acoustic environments. I mean, if you are configuring a serious home theater or a high-end boardroom, the last thing you want is the whir of a cooling fan bleeding into a quiet space.
Oh, for sure. And reliability is everything when you're deploying this stuff. You absolutely cannot have a signal drop right before a massive presentation.
Which is why what stands out on the HDTV Supply page isn't just the hardware specs, but the deployment reality. They boast a 96% top-tier rating for a reason.
Yeah, user reviews specifically highlight their quick tech support for resolving handshake issues and configuring specific resolution settings, like forcing 4K versus 1080p.
Which is vital when you are integrating varying generations of displays. Because ultimately, the Kramer EXT3-H-T isn't just a basic cable adapter. It really acts as an intelligent bridge that entirely rewrites the physical limits of how we design AV spaces.
Right, which actually leaves us with a pretty wild thought to chew on as we wrap up. As 8K displays and 120 Hz gaming become the new standard, the sheer bandwidth required is going to totally dwarf what uncompressed HDBaseT can do over standard copper wire.
It is going to be a massive challenge.
Yeah, so does this mean the future of commercial and home AV will eventually have to abandon copper entirely for fiber optics? Or will compression algorithms get so incredibly good that the human eye simply won't be able to tell the difference? It is definitely something to think about next time you plug in a screen.